thou that sleepest, arise from the dead.
Read the Bible, you'll find out that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed.
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Morning, good morning, good morning. We should play that opening for the next 2 hours because it says it all. It says it all.
Yeah. Awake. I'm trying to get awake.
Yeah, I hear you. The two most important days of your life: the day you were born and the day you find out why. Boy, do we live in an interesting nation, folks.
How about being born again?
Yeah. Well, the day you find out why.
There you go.
Feminism, sexism, racism, greenism, COVIDism, humanism, socialism, paganism, eroticism, sexism,
isms,
genderism, Junism, LGBTism, sadism, evolution. Wow. What we're doing to our children, folks. I said it before and I'll continue to say it. We are a land of child abuse. There aren't too many children that escape it, folks. Drugs, cell phones, computers, Public Indoctrination Centers, aka schools. The list goes on. You know, for instance, Friday morning, the news was all about children who had committed suicide through internet encouragers and had committed suicide through internet encouragers, and how we just stop these bad guys from more big, what we're going to do it with Big Brother surveillance. We're going to take the rest of your liberties away. We created the environment. The government enhanced it. And now they're going to go, whoa, we'll step in and we'll take care of this for you. Don't worry about it, parents. You don't need to do anything at all. Big Brother is going to take care of everything for you. Meanwhile, our children are sitting ducks for ungodly forces that attack through land, sea, and air. One could say that the good news is, as a nation, we're having less children, or is that the bad news?
Bad news.
Yeah, it also appears that even those children that are created are soon subjected to Americans' obsession with child abuse. I mentioned and good morning, Mr. Anderson. Good to see you.
Good morning.
You look like your old bright-eyed bushy-tailed.
Oh, yeah. Getting ready for the big snowstorm and the dropping temperatures. And well, we don't have it too bad in Ohio compared to a lot of other places.
Yeah.
The state of Washington is getting washed away. They ought to wash away Washington, D.C. That needs a cleaning.
We're trying to, and we put a lot of emphasis on Washington, D.C., on a independent nation that seems to rule over a sovereign nation.
Seems to be.
Sovereign, yeah. But think about this. You have control at the local level.
Well, you try.
Well, you don't try, because you can't. One person can't do this. If you go to school board meetings or city council meetings, you're not going to see a whole lot of folks that want to monitor what's going on and even change it. You do have folks there. I remember going to school board meetings, and the heavy attendance was by the union members. And when somebody would try to do something and step up and speak, you could hear them giggling in the back of the room because they knew that the union was in control of everything. No matter what you said, no matter what the school board said, that the union controls those schools. Indoctrination centers.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still true, but the teachers union, we used to talk about the Teamsters, right? And the power that
Yep.
lobby had in the country. I don't know who the most powerful lobby is now. I think maybe APAC, but that's another subject. But the teachers union was as strong or stronger than the Teamsters. Few people knew that. And they're a socialist organization, big time.
Yeah. Well, most everything is in control right now, has that socialist lean. And boy, there's odd bedfellows. In New York, you have the Muslim community encouraging the LGBT community to come on in.
That's a very weird mixed breed, isn't it?
Well, it isn't. It isn't because, and our good friend David would confirm this, most of that LGBT community that they're bringing in can be in the front lines because they really don't care about their lives. They can set them up in the front lines and they can do all the hard work. And then another group can come in and champion everything. Be the savior, if you will. They could eventually make them the bad guys. But it's very interesting. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's another case where they got you watching one hand while the other one's busy doing something else.
Yeah. But that, again, I still want to focus on that local level. I was at a Tea Party meeting Thursday. Sparsely attended. By the way, the Tea Party had a contest, broke it up into 5 different groups of people that were there on the Constitution. You'd pick a number and then they'd ask you a question about the Constitution. It was very interesting. Very interesting. Some of us learned out how much we didn't know about the Constitution, and others of us recognized how much we do know about the Constitution. It was very interesting, very, very stimulating. And I can't encourage you folks enough. Don't go hide. Don't go hide in your prayer closet and pray that God's a just God. He's a just God. And he expects his people. You know, is the church, I talk about the press, the church, and public education, the 3 communication giants, and the church just remains silent. And I got in a discussion with somebody and they said, well, the church can't say anything because of the Johnson Amendment. And I said, well, wait a minute, that's changed. Did you know that, Mr. Anderson, that churches can talk about politicians and they can talk about political candidates?
Absolutely.
Yep.
And they ought to. And even more, this is a frustrating thing. Candidates and officials that go to church ought to be counseled by their pastors.
Ooh.
The pastor, I think you got to be accountable to your church body. And when they just say, well, I go to this church, and well, anyway, you get my meaning, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's
Who holds them accountable? I'm a Christian. I go to this church.
Yeah.
They control the pastor, and it should be the other way around.
But one of the problems, Kevin, is there's a survey done in 2013, I think, 2023. Majority of all major religious groups oppose allowing places of worship to endorse political candidates while retaining their tax-exempt status. Nearly 2/3 of Americans wanted churches to stay out of politics.
Well, the church itself is political.
Listen, life is political, folks. Politics is like oxygen. You cannot get away from it. And yes, Jesus was involved in politics. Read the book. Listen to who he talked to. Huh? What was he doing? Who was he trying to influence? Why was he doing that? What was he being an example of? What would Jesus do, right? So the fear is that the church can't say anything, that they can't support a candidate, they can't support a political movement. That's the understanding. Okay. I went to the internet, and this is an AI solution. Okay. This is an AI response. Keep in mind what we just said. The Supreme Court, this is from AI, has not specifically ruled that churches can endorse political candidates from the pulpit. However, recent IRS interpretation suggests that religious organizations may discuss political issues in a religious context without losing their tax-exempt status. And like any church, you're going to stay in the Bible and you're not going to get out, right? Churches cannot endorse specific candidates, but can address political topics as they relate to their faith. This is the first thing that you're going to run across when you hear on the internet. Remember, the press, what's being reported, recent developments. See, what they first told you is you can't support a political candidate. That's what they first told you. Then they go into recent development. You know what you first hear? Recent developments. In a recent case, National Religious Broadcasters versus Long, the IRS indicated a shift in the interpretation of the Johnson Amendment. The IRS stated that the religious organizations may discuss political campaigns and candidates with their congregation without risking their tax-exempt status, as long as the communication is tied to religious services or matters of faith. Here's what AI says that you can do and can't do. Listen, 2 paragraphs. I just read those to you. Here's what AI tells you what churches can and cannot do. Activity permitted, not permitted. Activity, endorse a specific candidate, not permitted. What did I just read to you? And then they're telling you, so number one, the first thing you hear, they give that to you, and they say, oh, by the way, and then they go, and then they confirm number one again. Endorse a specific candidate, not permitted. Discuss political issues from the pulpit, permitted. Organize voter and registration drives, permitted. House debates among candidates, permitted. Provide partisan support for a candidate, not permitted. Conclusion from AI. While churches can engage in discussions about political issues, they must be careful not to endorse specific candidates. The recent IRS interpretation allows for more political discourse within religious context, but the fundamental restrictions of the Johnson Amendment remain in place. That's AI. That's your future, folks. That's what you're going to be told you can do and can't do. AI is going to interpret it for you. They're doing much of the writing now for anyone anyway, right?
Who knows what AI is doing?
Mm-hmm. Well,
part of the topic today, you know, how that is affecting our youth, and we'll go into that later.
Yeah. Christmas, you're going to be giving gifts. Are you going to be opening doors that you're going to soon regret? But as a parent, you can control that, right? Are you controlling the best friend of your son or daughter with their computer, with their phone? Are you? And don't you think the kids can't get a workaround for this? We're going to take a break, and when we come back from the break, I'm going to give you the rest of the story when it comes to the IRS and churches endorsing political candidates. Lighting a candle, folks. Lighting a candle, not cursing the darkness, lighting a candle. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. This is your last call, and good morning.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
And we are back. We are back. IRS says churches can now endorse political candidates. Wait, what? AI just told me, the recent AI just told me you can't do that. By the way, this is from July 8th, of this year. In a break with decades of tradition, the Internal Revenue Service says it would allow houses of worship to endorse candidates for political office without losing their tax-exempt status. The announcement came in a court document, like I said, filed in July of this year. What you first hear when you went to the internet, who's controlling the information here, folks? When you went to the internet and you did the search, AI popped up and answered your question for you. Churches cannot endorse a political candidate. That's what you first hear. Now, Mr. Anderson, you're an ex-teacher. Once you first hear something, and then somebody says, well, wait a minute, I heard something different. You're already locked in. They have to prove themselves. The people that said, the AI that said, they don't have to prove themselves. They're out there first. Now you have to prove or disprove what they're talking about. And the Johnson Amendment, by the way, 1954, basically shut the mouths of the church. Johnson was running for office, and the church started doing what the church should be doing. So he passed this law to shut the church's mouth. And they did. And he got elected. The National Religious Broadcasting and several churches sued the IRS over the rule, arguing that it infringes on the First Amendment rights to the freedom of speech and the free exercise of religion. So if you're church, you have freedom of speech? Huh. What an odd concept. Speech.
Well, they use that 501c3, and even pastors don't really understand what that law says, and they're afraid to challenge it. But my question comes, why do they put money above truth?
Mr.
Why are they worried about a tax exemption?
What are you implying?
I am implying that they are controlled by the dollar.
Yeah, going to have to get Don on the show with us. What do you think, brother?
Well, pastors love separation of church and state. The reason they do is half their congregation votes for things God calls an abomination. Well, once they start preaching that from the pulpit, well, they're going to have to look for another job and go to Walmart to earn their living.
When you talk about free speech, think about freedom of press and what religion they're pushing. Secular humanism, folks.
You're dead on, BJ. We have to look at these philosophies, these human philosophies, as religions. We have a way of believing our worldview. It's through, as Christians, it's through this book right here. Once again, every Bible should be read, even if it's this color. And I just want to say that I have been battling, for years. I used to work in church. I was a paid Christian. I was a worship leader, got paid for it. Was a youth minister and got paid for that. And I agree with Norm. The churches are not guided by the laws, believe it or not. The churches are guided by fear of being sued. They carry large insurance policies. They don't get involved with politics because they fear that the IRS will come down and take their precious 501c3 exemption status away. And all I can say, BJ, is I did some research, and I wish pastors would do this too. I would want them to do a search, and I'm not a big fan of AI, but use it, I guess, and ask the question: how many churches have been audited in your area, your specific area, for endorsing a candidate or speaking politically or saying baby murder is wrong from the pulpit? In my presentation there, Mr. Anderson, I've got a slide. Pastor Charles Finney, if you'd like to throw that up on the screen, I don't know if you can, but I got it. But it says this, BJ. It says this. I'll quote it. If Satan rules in our halls of legislation, the pulpit is responsible for it. If our politics become so corrupt that the very foundations of our government are ready to fall away, the pulpit is responsible for it. Charles Finney, I hope that's convicting to any and all pastors watching Last Call with B.J. Edwards right now, because you're not supposed to be guided by fear, sirs. You're supposed to be guided by faith. Thanks, B.J.
Amen. Amen. You know, the IRS, what you mentioned, and that's in this article, rarely enforce the Johnson rule. Okay. But fear is what the pastors and the churches are being ruled by. Yes. Fear of God, right? No.
I don't think it's the fear of the Johnson's amendment. It's a fear of their congregation.
Yeah. Well, plus it costs
to some extent, yes.
Yeah, it costs money though. If the IRS starts questioning what you're doing, it costs a lot of money to fight that. Robert Jeffress, Dallas, First Baptist Church, he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars during an IRS investigation. Just an investigation, folks. So there's that too. By the way, only one church has ever lost its tax exemption over politics. In 1992, a church in New York took out ads opposing Bill Clinton's. Yeah, why would they do that? Federal court filing as part of proposed settlement, and I think they're going to get a settlement out of this case.
They were bold, BJ.
Yeah. It's as goes the church. And by the way, folks, that isn't a building. We're talking about the ecclesia, the body, and that's us. That's those that are listening on this program this morning. You are a Christian. If you know to do good and don't do it, what happens there? Is that a sin? I believe no, I don't believe it is. I know the Bible says it is. You know to do good.
Written in the book of James, sir.
So for heaven's sakes, do it. Well, you can't fight City Hall. If you don't, you're right. You can't. But that's an opportunity. That is an opportunity. Every problem you see out there is not a problem. It's an opportunity. And if you see it and you feel impressed by it, guess what, folks? That's your calling. I'm amazed at another thing the churches are doing. Is they're sending so many people overseas, missionaries. And from what I could go through the headlines. Hake-Steph killing must stop. U.S. pushes Zelensky. Living in a post-truth world. Connecting the dots. Our U.S. Congress a rat's nest of corruption and incompetence in both. Judge temporarily blocks DOJ from using evidence proving James Comey's guilt. This is House Democrat files an impeachment argument. Do you know that if we are stupid enough to elect more Democrats to our Congress than we do Republicans, what's going to happen for the next 3 years, 2 years? We're going to have impeachment hearings, lawfare at its highest level against the President of the United States. That is going to happen. That's guaranteed. Let me tell you how I know. A House Democrat has filed impeachment articles against RFK Jr., not the president, RFK Jr. Democrat Rep. Haley Stevens, who is running for an open Senate seat in Michigan. There's motivation for you, right? You have to make somebody the bad guy, and that means you're the good guy. If there's a bad guy and you're talking about him, that automatically makes you the good guy. This hate rhetoric has got to stop, folks. And one of the ways to stop it is don't elect people like Representative Haley Stevens. I understand this is in Michigan, Mr. Anderson, and that's a challenge, more so than other states, right? Introduced Wednesday against Health and Human Resources Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Through it has visually zero chance of advancing to the Republican-controlled House. But this is a political move. This is free advertisement for this wannabe senator. She's vowed to do so in September, arguing that his actions and public remarks have jeopardized public health, increased the cost of health care, and cut important medical research programs. I wonder if you did an AI research or a search on that, what it would tell you. It would confirm this. We're nowhere near as divided as they want us to believe. You know who said that, Mr. Anderson?
I might have.
And it's an Ohioan. Vivek Ramaswamy.
No, thank you.
Yeah. And we'll get into this in the second hour, but Australia bans social media. These are good things. Accounts for youth under 16. U.S. Supreme Court smacks down lower court and major win for Amish families fighting New York's draconian school mandates. That's good stuff, folks. That's good stuff. Somebody want to butt in?
I think it's awesome, BJ. It's funny that you bring up that particular story. I work at a lumber yard, and supervisor is out in the yard, and I deal with the customers directly. They go into the shop, they buy their lumber, they come out and see me, and I fulfill what they bought. And the Amish are such a different type of person. And I love the fact that they are autonomous and they live by the Bible. I mean, they're sinners as well. But I was talking to one young man, and they don't have these issues, BJ. And I often wonder, sir, did the Amish get it right? We were talking about the vaccines, for instance, and I asked the young man. I said, brother, how's the community? That's how you address them. And he says, everybody's fine. I said, anybody got any sicknesses, any illnesses? Oh, we got some sniffles here and there. And it's just a normalcy, BJ, that goes on. And I got on to the point of the vaccines. I said, you guys didn't take any of those mandated vaccines that they required back in 21, did you? And they were like, no, not at all. We just live off of our land and what we produce, through God's earth and everything. And everybody made it through. And it just made me wonder, why live anything different? But they live strictly by the book. There are different factions of Amish, as you know, but they're so grounded, BJ. It actually made me jealous because they don't have all of the worries and concerns as they refer to us as, if we're not Amish, the English do. So I love that you brought up that story. I just wanted to pipe in with that since you brought that up.
Thank you. Norm?
Yeah, and the Amish are not affected by ups and downs in the economy. They just don't have the worries that a lot of us do. I do see a lot of law there, that they're under, but they're and you got the Mennonites. I actually was counseled some Mennonites and some of the leadership, and I became the counselor for 2 Mennonite churches here in the area for several years. They're a good group of people too, but they're a lot more have a lot more freedom than the Amish. But we've got a lot of Amish in our area now, and so
I can't think of the name of the TV series. Justified. Justified was a series, and it had local sheriff, and it had a community within the community. Now, it wasn't Amish, but it's an Amish type situation, almost like a family type situation. Everybody was closely tied, and they had their own laws within that community, and they had power in the community because the sheriff really had a difficult time trying to control them, because once he'd walk into their area, he kind of recognized he was under their law. It'd be very difficult for him to pull somebody out there and punish them. I mean, extreme examples is going to happen, but the Justified series was about a community that was separate from the other community, but within that community, and the strength of that community and how much fear there was in their unity. And that's what they had. They had a leader within that community, and they had unity. They followed the leader. Am I right? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kevin.
What? Oh,
I thought Branson chimed in. What I know about that, BJ, is it's the patriarch, usually the eldest male in the community.
Oh, chauvinist. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Take it up with the Bible, because they definitely live by the Ephesians 5:6 rules.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it is the Bible, but it's also natural law. Children need, we're born with a need for that authority. It's ingrown it. And that software package that we're given at birth is very helpful if we don't fight it. But in America, we fight it. That's a great point. In America, we fight it. We don't. The Natural Family Month that the state of Ohio is going to pass.
yes, it will.
Basically, we're trying to tell the community this is an evidence-based best practice. Well, why is it an evidence-based best practice? Because it follows the laws of nature, and nature's God. And that is the strength of it. But you get all these exceptions, like, well, what about the LGBT community? What about single parents? Do you really think that a single parent, when they got married, were going, gosh, I can't wait till I be a single parent?
Right.
Huh? Isn't that what they're thinking? Absolutely not. Hey, we're going to take a break. We got a break. We can continue the discussion. Folks, we have to stop this child abuse. We have to recognize what is right and what is wrong before we can do that. If you would, Mr. Anderson, please.
All right. A little special announcement or newscast from Buddy Brown.
So talking about December 19th, I feel like this is something really important to bring up, because we have two events happening at the same exact time. We have the landing, and hopefully I'm not talking about a spaceship, but we have the landing of the long-awaited Epstein files. Okay, the people have been chewing popcorn on for about 3 years now, watching that go down, and it's all about to go public. And on the same exact day, I had to look this up. I was going, hold on now. 3i Atlas was supposed to make its closest appearance to the Earth somewhere in late December. When is that? I've Googled that real quick. Oh yeah, December 19th. So, look, I'm not saying these two things are connected at all. I'm just saying that we live in a time where our trust in institutions is lower than a snake's belly in a wagon rut. Okay? I'm going to give you just a second to give you the mental picture on that one. So look, here's my thing. How do you not ask about Project Bluebeam when you connect these two things? If you don't know about Project Bluebeam, it's basically a theory where the government might use high-tech, powerful illusions to stage a bunch of spectacles to distract from, let's just say, a massive news alert. Okay? So I'm going to tell y'all this right now. Demons are absolutely real, but I don't believe in alien ships, y'all. I don't believe in alien ships. I do, however, believe in distraction tactics. And for those of y'all who thought when Trump got into office that we'd have like a stable 25, do you still think 2025 is stable? It's all out of control. Marjorie Taylor Greene is leaving Congress. The mayor of New York City is a satanic communist. ICE is getting shot at. Though a third world is completely invading all of Europe, soon to be coming to America. Candace is fighting with Turning Point USA, and we're about to evidently go to war with Venezuela. That's about 1/10 of the list. I could go on and on and on. But look, I don't get involved with these stupid sideshows. The $1 million question is, though, for this video right here, the $1 million question is, does Jesus ever talk about anything in the Bible that could be linked to what I'm speaking of, Project Bluebeam? My answer is maybe. For those of y'all who got Bibles and you know that the red letters is when Jesus is speaking, it's Matthew 24, verses 23. It's going to say, at that time, if anybody says to you, look, there's the Christ. There he is. Don't believe it. Jesus is saying, don't believe it, because many false Christs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and great wonders to deceive even the elect, if that was possible. So now I've told you in advance. And this is Jesus talking. What is that, y'all? What in the world is that? Because look, we've seen the sphere in Vegas and the technology they're using there with the illusions that look just next level. All I'm saying is, imagine something 1,000,000 times bigger, 1,000,000 times better, something that is so high and so grand and so detailed that it goes up into the stratosphere. Okay, just like Jesus is kind of talking about. Imagine the confusion that this would be with non-believers and Christ followers, is all I'm saying. And I don't want to I know this is out there. I know this is way out there in left field. It is, but there's been a lot of ex-government agents that have talked about this and verified it. So y'all, for me, I just want you to keep the peace of Christ wherever you go, because all these coming deceptions are going to be crazy. And I don't want you out there acting like a bunch of raccoons waiting for the garbage lid to blow open because they get excited watching the show. Okay? Or being out in the backyard with binoculars pointing at the sky as if some alien spaceship or comet's about to drop you a bunch of coupons for Christmas. There are no aliens. And even if there were, I doubt seriously they would care about the Epstein files. Do you really think a spaceship flew 3 trillion miles away to block your newsfeed?
Trust, but verify, right? How do you verify? Practice. Where'd I leave off, folks?
That was a little fun. You know, we got December 19 coming up and all kinds of stories.
I push unity, and this could possibly be very divisive, because if it's as strong as what he's saying it's going to be, then there's going to be some strong feelings on both sides, or in Christians' world, it's going to be 42,000 different sides, right? Amazing. One
if I
thing
could chime in, BJ.
Say what?
If I could chime in real quick, you was talking about unity. Would you like to know what God says about unity?
Where there's unity, the Lord commands a blessing.
He says in Psalm 133, behold how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity. That's the first verse of Psalm 133. Mm-hmm. Folks that's watching Last Call with BJ Edwards. This book, it must be read. What Buddy was talking about, you know, if you're going to be in the Lord, you better be in this book, because you won't know what the Lord wants you to do when all hell breaks loose. Just saying.
We send our children to government-run indoctrination centers, kindergarten through 12th grade. And they teach that life has no meaning. They do all this teaching without a Bible, without the 10 Commandments on the wall.
With life evolution in their science book. Okay.
Yep. That life has no meaning. Morals are relative. DEI, multiculturalism, diversity. Man, not God, is the measure of all things. The state's your daddy, of course. And then they make every child a victim. You're entitled. You're a victim. You weren't born equal. A brief summary of initial November 2025 school levy results. Total school levies, there were 113 school levies, this is in Ohio, on the ballot on November 4th, 2025. 74 of the 113 school levies on the ballot in November passed. Money's the power to make decisions, folks. The more money you have, the more decisions you can make. When somebody takes money from you, your decision-making power, and uses it against you and against your children, when somebody forces you to pay for that, something's off here. Something's off here. There were 34 school capital levies in November 2025 on the ballot, 9 bond, 3 bond combined levies, 6 new permanent and permanent, 19 renewal permanent levies, 20 of 34, 58, 60% capital levies in November 2020 ballot passed. And in 2024, that's up from 2024, which is 43%. They're taking that money and they're teaching the children what I just told you. And then when the 500,000 or so perverts out there get a hold of your child and they're convinced that life has no meaning, you're lucky if they just take your life, their own life. but a lot of them like to take other lies. Fellow students, or politicians that they've been told to hate. Probably the reason that they feel so miserable is those politicians. Wow. Norm, go ahead, please.
Well, this thing with the kids, we've talked over and over about the importance of the family, and I've come to the conclusion, I believe it's a sin for parents to send their kids off to a school that they don't know what's going to be taught. And I believe it's a sin. And then, see, one unconfessed sin leads to another. And so it starts off small. We go from sin, and the next sin is going to be a little larger than the last one with more consequences. And now we're up to the place that, again, what we see in our schools, and they've taken their kids and they're sex trafficked and on and on and on. And again, it started very innocently, so to speak, with sending their kids off when God clearly said for the parents to train their kids, and the parents didn't do it. And again, one unconfessed sin leads to another, and it's always progressive. It's always bigger the next time, and it's going to continue. I don't know what's coming next after this. We're mutilating our kids, cutting off body parts, but there's something more evil than that. I can't imagine what it is, but if we don't get a handle on this, there's something more evil that's going to be happening to our kids.
Which you can't imagine. They will.
They will.
Okay, you need to understand that.
Right.
And it's an open invite.
Yeah. And we Mr. Anderson's talking about, DC needs to float off, and I agree to a degree, but politicians is just a mirror of the people, that's back on us. We can blame Washington all we want to, but we better, the old saying, when you're pointing at somebody else, you got 3 fingers pointing back at yourself. So it's back on the family, and weak families lead to a weak church, and a weak church leads to a corrupt government.
What Norm is saying, in essence, is, folks, you are in control.
Mm-hmm.
You are in control.
Yeah.
But you have to take control. It's there. Those issues out there that you don't like, that you think ought to be changed. Yes, you know the problem. Share that with other folks and work together. Use that internet capability, those phone capabilities.
If I could pose a question, BJ, to the panel, why do you think that Christians don't? Why do you think they'll just support, when they see on Fox News, President Trump is, I think one of the latest ones was, what was it that I just read? And Norm can probably help me with this. Something about he's outlawing DEI being taught somewhere else. Norm, if you know that, but whatever that is, why do we focus on just that talking head, the man in Washington, instead of looking around at our own community and say, wow, Busman, like for instance, if I may, I live on a street, BJ, where a lot of cars just zoom around this curve that I live on. And there are so many kids on this street, so many kids to my right and to my left, just riding their bikes, running around, jumping the ropes. Why do they not go to their city council and say, you know what? We got to stop. We got to stop this speeding. We got to put up, deterrent signs. But they just say, go, Mr. Trump, or go, Mr. President. And they don't get involved other than that. What stops a man, BJ, Norm, Mr. Anderson? What is your take on that? Why don't they get involved? They just cheerlead. Yay! Go politicians. I'm not going to do anything, but go politicians.
You had your Bible out a while ago. Let me read you something from 1 Samuel 8:20. This tells you where we're at. That we may also be like all the nations, and that our King may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. Okay. We want somebody else to go do it. That's been around for a long time. Yeah. Just let me go do my thing. Hey, I'm busy. I've got a career, I need to play golf or go fishing, and all this stuff. And, y'all go do it. And, just let me do my thing.
Mr. Anderson, before I comment, do you have anything to say?
Truth is falling in the street. Isaiah 59:14. I don't think people really know what's going on. They don't know.
You got to be on the field.
It's like in our community here, we got a councilman that's been recently arrested, and the mayor says, "Oh, he's well." The first time, this is the second time he's been arrested. The first time, the mayor supported the guy. He says, "Oh, we need you. Don't quit yet." He was talking about resigning. I'm like, what's going on? We don't look at the quality of people. What happened? Oh gosh, where's this guy? Was he a Columbus City Council member that was just indicted for one of the topics that we're talking about today?
Child abuse.
Yeah. Again, why are we electing people we don't know anything about? And we're talking local now. We're not talking federal or state.
73% of the people believe that the church should not be involved in politics, Mr. Anderson. You have pastors, and Norm kind of touched a little lightly on this, but church leaders, by the way, I have a problem with church leaders, Leaders. Okay. I think that they can educate, they can do great Bible studies, but the leadership belongs in the family. And when you lose that, which we've done, it's not.
Well, even in the church, if you send your family to church, the kids all march off to Sunday school.
Right.
Yep.
And they
I was
listen
paid
to
one of those guys, Mr. Anderson. They paid me to take the children away from the parents.
Away from the parents. Yeah. Instead of sitting together and hearing the same message and being able to discuss it. Who knows what they're being taught in Sunday school?
That's interesting. Yeah. But we see what's being taught in church because there's lack of action on the church body in the world.
Great point, BJ.
Pick a place in the world. And listen, here's one of the biggest problems that we have individually, and that is fear of rejection. If I step out as a church member and do something, what are other church members going to think of me?
Right.
Unless I'm on a mission trip, okay, overseas. If I go overseas, then I'm okay. But if I try to influence something in my community and it looks political, again, how can it not look political? We're in a group of more than two people, so you're going to have that. It's just I don't blame them of the rejection you get. It's like an almost automatic rejection. If you do something, who is this strange fella? What is he saying? This is different. And different to people is threatening.
Mm-hmm.
So you have if I step out, people aren't going to like me. And then you have the people when you step out, it's different. And because it's different, they're gonna run from it. They're gonna be afraid, not run from it. They're gonna be concerned about it. They're gonna say, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. And then of course they go to the computer and get AI in there and they get that confirmed, right? Listen.
I keep hearing about this guy AI.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Al or AI. I don't know.
How can you trust anything, gentlemen, that starts with the word artificial?
That's interesting. Now they're going to change the name.
You heard it here on last call first, BJ. You heard it coming from Boston.
Authoritative influencer.
They'll change it to absolute.
Yeah.
There you go, Brother Norm.
Authorized influencer.
Oh, that I could see that, BJ. Good night. Ooh-wee.
Oh, we're causing trouble here this morning. We're creating more problems than we can solve. These are not problems, folks. These are opportunities, and we're just wasting away, not taking them. You know, we're gonna get some folks from Western North Carolina on a program, I think, next week, and I want to remind you that most of them are not going to have a nice Christmas. Most of them are not going to be back in their homes. Some of them, I think maybe 10 or 15% are still going to be in tents.
It's incredible.
And the ones that are in temporary homes don't know how to take care of those temporary homes. And they're getting problems. They get mold problems, may have heating problems. It's a new world for them. But here's the problem. We've forgotten about them.
Yeah.
We have absolutely positively forgotten about them. And we need to be reminded, and that's why I'm going to bring them back on, like the J6ers.
Yep.
Amen.
Okay.
About to mention that. Yeah. We forget about things really quick.
Yep. It's there. And that's one of the problems we have as Americans, because on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you start with the basic food, water, shelter, which, by the way, would remind us of North Carolina, Western North Carolina, and parts of Tennessee. And then you go to self-actualization, which I call the Uber generation, which is where we are. We don't have to work for it. So, and with artificial intelligence or whatever we're going to talk about it these days, they're going to take care of it before you even think about it. They're going to do the thinking for you. They're going to be processing the food for you. But the problem is there's nobody out there working the farms, and we just think this is going to come out of thin air. A socialistic communist idea. It sound. I don't want to work for a living. I want to retire. By the way, I don't believe retirement is a biblical term. It's something we inherited from, I believe, Germany, of all places. That when you turn a certain age, you can now retire.
BJ, there were some words that's not in the original Hebrew language. Retirement is one of them. Fair is one of them. And coincidence is one of them. Those words were not in God's language.
Well, okay.
There you go.
That's good to hear. I'm rattling on. Go ahead, folks. If you got anything to add to that. We have a great panel, folks. Just listen. They're doers. The folks that are in here on our panel are doers. They have experience. They've been in the game. They've called plays. They've run plays. They've got their helmets turned sideways. That's what happens when you're a Christian, by the way, in this day and age.
And
go ahead.
Broken.
Well, if you're doing biblical Christianity, BJ, if you're just going to church, you get your hot coffee on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
You get to say hi to
Don't forget the donut.
Biblical Christianity is much, much worse than what they present to you in your local church. And I'll say that right here on last call. If you choose to follow Christ truly and biblically, you will have your helmet knocked off your head, BJ, not just knocked sideways. You will have a blow to the chest that you will get the wind knocked out of you. But we do that for the glory set before us, ladies and gentlemen.
There have been reported injuries from practicing Christianity. Just thought, yeah, that's what we're talking about here.
Fox's Book of Martyrs, that'll put you to shame.
Oh my goodness. That's a great reference there, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, good stuff. Second hour, we're going to be talking to Craig Mickel, and
great guest.
Yeah. Craig is one of those doers. He kind of, a lot like me. He sees too many needs. He sees too many needs, and he can't stop himself. He's got to jump in and try to help, which is just it's wonderful. It's a blessing. Just absolutely incredible. Mr. Anderson, we got a 2-minute warning before we go to Mr. Mickel.
Yeah, and I'm torn which one to show, but
Can you show them both?
I think I'm going to show this little warning about a little clip from the guy that was involved with the writing. A lot of people might remember the movie The Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
And I made a little clip of a conversation here. I'll play that for the 2-minute warning, and then we'll bring on Craig, and I'm sure he can add a lot to it.
Yep.
Know my background.
Oh yeah, I do know your background,
Yeah.
and that's what I felt I wanted to do.
gone.
I was that very first meeting with these guys. I'm sitting there. I've got a Navy SEAL that's standing behind me. He's my real bodyguard and my show bodyguard,
Mhm.
right? And he's standing behind me, and one of the traffickers leans forward and he goes, "Pablo," he said, "I have a gift for you." I said, "Really? What's your gift?" This is our very first meeting where we're negotiating this party. I'm telling him, "Listen, I'm willing to fund your project under one condition. We're going to have a party in about a week. You're going to bring all your existing inventory. If I'm happy with what I see, I'll fund your resort." We had to get him to bring all of their children to one place at one time so we could
So
rescue
did
them.
he think you were buying them for your own personal use, whatever you were going to do?
I told him I was giving him $500 per child
Mhm.
just for 2 hours in the afternoon with him. That's why I was paying him, right? But really, it was just so that we could get
get
him
them
to
all
call the
together.
other traffickers, get them to bring all the children together.
That was a scene in the movie.
Yeah, exactly,
okay.
exactly. And so he was so excited I was willing to do that. He says, "I have a gift for you." I said, "Really? What's your gift?" And he hands me his phone, and there's a picture of an 11-year-old girl on his phone. He said, "This is Princess. She's still a virgin." He started talking about horrific things I could do to this little girl. And I thought, oh my God, I said, if we could help rescue these kids before they're ever trafficked in the first place, that would be a miracle. And then something he said made me realize he had more than her. I said, Fuego, I said, you say you just took delivery of some? I said, "You have more virgins?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I got 3 or 4 more." I said, "You're bringing those to my party too, right?" He goes, "Oh no." He says, "They're too expensive." I said, "Too expensive? I'm already paying this guy $25,000. I'm paying him $500 per child just for that time." I said, he said, "Jefe, you already paid $25,000." He said, "You want to fuck those other virgins? It's going to cost you maybe $2,000, maybe $5,000 for that little one. It's going to cost you maybe $10,000 more." Now at this point, Michael, I am legitimately pissed. No acting involved. He's talking about these children like they're commodities. I've got my really nice suit, $50,000 watch. I put my hands on my chest and I said, "You don't think I can afford an extra $10,000? He said, "Oh no, Jefe, no." I said, "I want every one of those virgins at my party." I said, "They damn well better be virgins when they get there. They're not for you. They're for me. You understand?" He goes, "Oh yeah, Jefe, I understand." This stupid smile on his face. Now, the Navy SEAL that was behind me cleared his throat, and he was I didn't check out the restaurant, make sure everything is safe. Later in debriefing, he said, "You know what?" He says, "That little girl on that phone looked like my daughter at home." He said, "I almost unholstered my weapon and shot him right there."
Probably had all to do to hold back.
Yeah. He said, but I knew if I did, he said, we would lose all those other kids.
I have a question for all my friends.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Y'all thinking about your daughters, your
Oh, my
granddaughters?
That's rough. That's rough. But people don't know the depth of what's going on. And that movie was pretty powerful. And anyway, I'm sure our guests can give us a lot more information.
Saving God's children. Why don't you go ahead and bring Craig on, please?
Trying to find him here.
I can get him in if you want. Got him.
I got it. Oh,
Yep.
you got it.
Yep. Hey, Craig.
Hey,
Morning
how are
to
you
you.
guys?
You're right. Is it Mickel? Craig Mickel or Michael?
Mickel.
Yeah. I think last time I had you on the program, I didn't pronounce that properly. So I stayed up all night. Mickel. Okay.
I wish I had more silver and nickels, man. We'd be we'd be doing pretty good today, wouldn't we?
Don't go there. Don't go there. Craig, I'm going to let you give your own bio, whatever you want folks to understand, and I want to get into the meat of the matter here because this is huge, folks. It's a lot larger than you can imagine, and we're not just bringing this to you today. Again, we like to light the candle. There's a problem. This is the problem. We're going to give you some details on it, and then we're going to equip you in terms of helping to alleviate this problem. So, Craig, introduce yourself. Where are you from? What state are you from, brother?
I live over in the western part of Maryland in the Panhandle there, kind of close to where Pennsylvania and West Virginia kind of touch the borders within about 7 miles of each other. And Maryland just kind of keeps you in between them. And so my story is I spent 30 years as a captain in fire rescue down in Montgomery County, Maryland. I've always had a calling to help people. And it's great when you get paid to help people, right? So it just kind of dovetailed into something that I felt I was to do. And I'm used to rescuing people in situations that they got themselves caught up in. So anyways, I retired in 2013, started getting active, walking out my faith. It's great to have faith, but if you don't really have anything to walk or you don't have any fruit on the tree, right, does your faith really represent who you are? And so I got into prison ministry and just different little things, Bible teaching at church, stepping up the game, and got involved with Coach Dave Lye, Past Assault Ministries, started to understand that we do have the ability to push back against evil in our local communities, and we are supposed to be the hands and feet and the voice of Christ. And if not you, who? And if not when? If not now, when? So Sound Freedom came out. We went with 25 members of our church. I encouraged the pastor because the pastor actually brought the movie up. He said, hey, this is a good movie that we go to. So, and that we do have a little bit of a problem with pastors being in the forefront. So I went over, I met him that afternoon at his house. I said, I'll buy 25 tickets if you go. And you know what? He said, okay, I'll go. And they put it out on a text message. And of course, people like, free tickets. And 25 people went to church and we watched this movie. It's kind of a profound movie. The one thing it doesn't really talk about is what's going on here in America. It talks about us being the number one consumer of child pornography and human trafficking for children in the world, but it doesn't really say, gee, what's happening on your front door? So everybody's just aghast. It's like, well, what do we do? And I was like, well, what does the church do? And that was the impotence for me to creating a website called savinggodschildren.com. And it's a platform for the church to get involved. You don't have to start from ground zero. You basically have to take what we've put on the website for you and be the hands and feet of Christ in your community. And so that's a little bit of my background.
You're retired?
Yeah, I retired in 2013.
Don't you understand what retirement means?
Yeah, it means you're rewired for Christ. I mean, if you think your job, the Bible talks about, everything's going to be refined by the fire. That's another thing I have, Refiner's Fire 2025. And it says, whatever's left after the fire, hay, wood, and stubble, the stuff that's left is what the Lord's going to evaluate you on. So the things of this earth I've come to understand are the relationships that you take into heaven with you and what you do here for the Lord and work. That's your inheritance. And the thing is if I'm gifted and I'm blessed that at 53 years old, I was able to retire. I don't have to go out and, do 40 hours a week for bread. And then what am I going to do with my time? So I became rewired for the Lord. And the thing is it's an obligation to a certain degree. If you're blessed in these areas, there's part of scripture says there's a sin of commission. That's committing something. There's a sin of omission. In other words, God's enabled you to do something and you don't do it. And he's going to hold you an account. I don't think it's a salvation issue, but I tell you what, he's going to sit there and say, what did you do with the gifts I gave you? And if you don't really have a good answer, I think that's where the weeping in heaven might take place.
So you're retired and you know what it means to start practicing your Christianity, especially in the public realm. people aren't going to like what you're doing. People are going to think you're a little strange.
Well, it depends on, I mean, that's a broad statement from the standpoint, certain parts of Christianity, yes, because people don't like to be necessarily called out if they're not walking in a Christian fundamental. I would say most people, as far as saving God's children, who's against that? Really, nobody. I mean, you can't take a good position and be called a human about this. Now, what I will say is there's a great indifference to it. In other words, people come in and they say, I really appreciate what you're doing, but, God bless you. Well, here's the problem with that. Okay. You don't have to be involved in this to the extent that I am, but you have to be a voice. You have to be accountable to the people that you know. And if you don't, nice thing about Paul Revere is he rode a horse, one by land, two by sea. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm riding a horse. I say one by the parking lot, two by the internet, because they're coming for your children, your grandchildren, the next generation. If you want to have people that work and create your Social Security so you can get a Social Security check, you better make sure that this next generation is able to work and have a job, because your whole retirement system is based on it. And our kids are under demonic attack, and sexuality is one of the main means. What you're doing with natural family is another thing, breaking up the natural family. These are the strategic points of Satan. Break up the family, fractionalize youth in their age, so they're dealing with their problems the rest of their life, and they doubt the goodness of God. That's his overall strategy.
Craig, in terms of the overall picture, in terms of what I call child abuse, and you're talking about mostly the physical child abuse, right?
Well, we're talking specifically sexual, okay? Because abuse comes in a lot of different, you can have mental abuse and, physical abuse. We're talking about sexual abuse. We're talking about sexualizing children, okay? And putting them, even pornography is sexualizing children at early ages, even if you don't have physical contact with them, because their minds are not able to handle the physical images that they're seeing on the internet. Okay. Yep. And I look back, and I was thinking about this, on the way over. I was driving over, coming back from I go to other churches. I went to this men's Bible study at a Salem Reformed Church, right? And they were talking about Calvinism, but I'm making connections. I've made a lot of connections in the community. And sometimes you just got to go, gee, you almost have to hold your tongue and go, gee, am I really wasting my time? But I'm not wasting my time, because I'm making connections. But the thing that I'm driving over here thinking, it's like, if we had the access to the internet that at my age, okay, the pornography, and then the other part of it is you got to go back and remember, man, when I was 14 and 15, did people like me? I mean, I was an introvert, I had no confidence in myself. Go back to being 14 or 15 in your own life, right? I'm 65, right? So this is 40 years ago, whatever it is, 50 years ago. And then put all the things that these kids have to deal with today. And this insecurities of being a 12 and 14-year-old have not changed from the 70s. What's changed is the technology and the culture.
Yes, and the culture changed. I'll have to take personal responsibility for, because I grew up in the era where we coined the phrase, if it feels good, do it. Why not? If it doesn't hurt anybody else, why not? Right? You have you have to ignore those natural laws, but that's okay. That was no problem. We opened up the doors, folks. In terms of, there used to be a right and wrong. We got rid of that. There is no right, there is no wrong, in case you haven't noticed in this society. But in terms of starting out, what was your first step, Craig? And what kind of resistance did you get, or what kind of promotion did you get when you first started out?
With saving God's children, you mean?
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to say I got resist. Like I said, I have more of an indifference thing. And the thing is I think what the real issue is everybody thinks they understand this, or they have, I don't think they maybe understand. Let me put it this way. They think they're more aware of what the problem is than what the depth of what the problem is. In other words, they don't see it for what the problem that it truly, truly, truly is. Hey, hey, hurricanes happen, but it doesn't happen to my house. Earthquakes happen, but it doesn't happen in my house. But if you're in California, that's a big deal. Okay.
Yeah.
And what I try to do is to say, you think that you have this nice family and you got things tightened up and you have internet safety blocks and all this other stuff, and it's not going to happen to you and your child, and you're wrong. It's not going to happen to your church. You're wrong. Okay. It's not going to be my youth pastor that has a problem with pornography and is a pedophile that ends up on the newspaper. You're wrong. Okay. And the thing is if you are not addressing this, and if you don't have a game plan, okay, and if you're not having eyes on the problem, in other words, expecting the problem, then you are operating in a vacuum. And what I'm trying to get people to do is to wake up, to educate themselves, to put the parameters of a wall of protection to the best of your ability. And the other thing is we need to talk to our youth and tell them what a problem this is. Tell them that we love them and we care for them, and that we're going to try to explain to them, if you enter down this path, you're going to have really big problems, and we don't want that in your life. Okay. This is one of the biggest missing components: the communication between the parents and the children, the community and the children, and the emphasizing that this is such a big problem. Because the problems that they come encounter with from pornography to being a predator, victim of online child predators and stuff like that, or even to be caught up in human trafficking, will not get corrected in 2 or 3 or 4 years of going to a counselor.
I think Bushman has a question.
Craig, such an awesome ministry that you're doing, and you're doing it on your own dime. I mean, that is incredible. I got a sign and I got a keychain. The sign will be out in my yard. I want to ask you this. I mean, how does your average person like myself, Craig Mickel, identify that this is happening in my town, in my neighborhood? How do I identify? What can people do to identify that's not right, sir?
Great question.
Okay, so we have a training and awareness aspect. There's 3 legs to saving God's children: training and awareness, and that's a component on the website; spiritual warfare, because that's the missing component of all these other anti-child trafficking, human trafficking websites, is the spiritual connection to it and the authority that the church can call down over their local community in prayer and united prayer in it. Okay, and then what it takes to look getting involved and where the resources are. So in those training and awareness, and some of the articles or links that I have, and I haven't created these things. What I've done is I've gone out and found them for you. Okay, there are experts that have been doing this for decades. So why do they need some firemen to come in, change a couple words, and put my name on it? They don't. I need to get you linked to the resources to do it, so you can start to look to see, okay, where would that happen at? Well, probably start looking at shady side hotels where people are coming and going, different tags from different, girls walking around scantily clothed, looking. One of the things when you go down to the very bottom, it says, what are the signs and symptoms of a child that has been abused sexually or physically? Okay, how they, you have this happy-go-lucky kid, and then all of a sudden, they get out of sports, they're in their room all the time, or all of a sudden they come home with this new, computer somebody gave them, all these little nuances, and you're like, okay, man, I didn't see that coming. So when you go down to doing it, we need strong definitions. This is a good thing, signs and symptoms of child sexual abuse. Okay. So you need to educate those things. Okay. And then once you're educated, you can start to look at it. One of the examples I like to do, Coach drives a green Kia Soul. All right. Well, there's a lot of green Kia Souls, but I remember seeing Coach. So whenever I see a green Kia Soul, I associate it with Coach. Right. So there's an association because you have a mental image of it. What I'm trying to say is, if you don't have these this information, okay, you're not going to be able to associate what you're seeing in front of you. It's just going to be a big blur.
You have a follow-up question, Martin?
I do, Mr. Mickel. The topic of pedophilia doesn't get discussed. So 2 questions, actually, BJ, if I may, with our guest. Number one, would just openly talking about the reality of pedophilia being among people today. Would that help? Number one, Craig. And then number two, to assume that a man or a woman or a teenager is abusing a child is a heavy lift, sir. We better have our ducks in a row before we point at Buskman and say, hey, Buskman, we have this allegation. How do you address those two items, Craig? One is, should pedophilia be openly talked about instead of, put behind the curtain? And number two, what do we have to do to really make sure that, because once we send this man or this woman or this teenager up the river in the United States of America at the federal and local level government authority, through our judicial systems, it's going to be all bad for that man, woman, or teen. What say you, Craig?
Okay, so let's look at the first thing. When I go out in public and I take my anti-child trafficking trailer, which is has signs on it like Saving God's Children, and I have information in there, I would say 80% of the time someone has approached me and said I've been a victim of child molestation by one of my family members or somebody that I knew, or I've been involved in human trafficking. I'm going to make a statement. Can I prove it? No. When a pastor is sitting up there and he's looking out there, I would say between 20 and 30% of the people have been sexually abused sometime in their life. Okay. So your audience has already been exposed to this. They're dealing with it, or they're not dealing with it. What are you doing as a pastor? What is your church doing about healing about this? Where are you allowing God to bring healing and purpose into your pain? So the fact that you're not addressing it, okay, your audience has it. So you might as well start getting on board, because I think that you'd get a great response from the people if you really started to talk about that. So that'd be the first thing. Second thing is, when you have an allegation, you're right. Okay. There's two ways to look at it. Oh man, that could never happen here. Or it's happening everywhere. Okay. You can't go on either side of that scale. You're right. Okay. But you know what? You have to take it seriously. You have to take the allegation seriously, and how you proceed forward to it, okay, is getting, collaborating information, okay, maybe not jumping off at the first rail of it, but continue to dig into it, okay. And there might be a time when you sit there and say, man, if this child's not going to say something, I need to, because I feel like I have enough of evidence and based into it to take it to the next level.
I'm going to ask a tough question, but I'm going to ask it after the break, Mr. Anderson, if you would. I don't know whether we have a video, the complimentary video. I think we might, but if we don't, we don't. And the question I'm going to ask is 0 to 5 years old, 5 years old, 13, and 13 up, 3 categories. Maybe I'm not putting them in the right categories. Correct my categories, but what should we be looking for? What should we be concerned about at those different age groups? You're listening to Last Call, BJ Edwards and Mr. Anderson, with our guest, Craig Mickel.
Meanwhile, there's people are out there risking their life to stop human trafficking. They're rescuing children from human trafficking.
Yes.
What is this? U.S. Marshal. Wow, 72 million missing children. Excuse me, 72. Let's say million. 72 missing children across Indiana, Iowa, Ohio, and Georgia in the past several weeks. In the past several weeks. So what is this is where these. So when you read an article like that, U.S. Marshals rescued 72 missing children. This is where all the QAnon people get crazy because they think that Donald Trump is secretly working behind the scenes to stop child trafficking, and that there's some secret cabal in the government that wants to enable this shit, and then Facebook bans QAnon, and everyone's going crazy now. This child trafficking thing is real. It has always existed.
Did you know that Houston is actually one of the hubs for child trafficking in the U.S.?
Really?
Yes, it is.
Now, how do they find out about child trafficking? How do they infiltrate?
So usually it's local law enforcement that recognizes some abnormalities in the behavior of some of the children. Usually it's certain areas, certain shops, certain businesses that are kind of harboring these people. A lot of them just get stopped because, I mean, it's kind of really odd if you're in a van or an 18-wheeler and then there's like 20 kids in it. It's weird. And we, as a culture, have got to work with local law enforcement to start to curb this thing, because that's where the rubber meets the road. I don't know if you saw the story. I don't know if you could pull it up, sir, but if you saw the story about the flight attendant that helped out.
Yes, the girl.
That recognized the abnormality of a girl on a flight by herself and saved her life.
Yes.
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
Saving God's Children. Craig Mickel. Craig, you can comment on the video if you want, or address the question, what age groups are we looking at and what are we looking for?
Well, I forget how many thousands of kids go missing every day. I mean, a lot of them are running away. 90% are returned. Okay. It's a good number. All right. But 10% aren't. So if you have roughly, let's just say you have 3,000, that means there's 300, that aren't being found. Where are they going? Okay. I mean, with all the type of technology that we have to track people down, social media, this kind of stuff, where do these people go? And a lot of them do end up in human trafficking. Hey, sadly, people don't even want to go here. They are taken and they're offered in satanic ritual abuse and sacrifices. All right. And they're taken out of the country, to be exported. They look, hey, we need a blue-eyed, redheaded girl. All right. I'm going to tell you, those two right there make you an option to be taken, because we're dealing with levels of evil that we don't appreciate, and narcissism. It's evil first, narcissism second. And the people that have the money for that, it doesn't matter how much they pay for that. They will get that particular type of child for them. So that, my thing that I really try to emphasize to parents is the risk of your child being taken and subject to being human trafficked is a very low risk. It's there. Okay. Your child talking to a child predator on the internet, you're looking in the 50% range. Okay. And so the question is, do you really want your children talking to these? All right. And, one of the things that I sent you was some stuff. I'm assuming we can get into it later. Is this thing about sextortion?
50%, 50%, 50% are being talked to by predators.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I bet. Yeah. There's 500,000. Okay. Now they might not have a big time engagement in them. Okay. But they're going to come across them. And some of them, 1 in 5, have extended conversations with them. There's 500,000 child predators on the internet daily. Okay. So just divide your little 50 states by that. Okay. That's over 1,000, right? 5, that'd be 50,000. This be 10,000 per state, looking around the internet. Okay. And this is what children are doing. And they cruise on Facebook. They cruise on Instagram. They play on Roblox. They're doing all the things that these children have social media. Australia just put this ban in about social media. You might have heard it, under 16.
Yep.
Just established, right? And I'm going to be supportive of that. You think, wow, we're taking away their rights. Well, they can't drive a car till they're 18, so it's okay. When you're doing something for their benefit, they can wait, until they're a little bit more mature to get on some of this stuff. But that's how bad the problem is. Okay. And what I'm trying to say is, even if, this one lady from Streetsboro, she was talking about with her son, and she says, "Oh, we had this on. We looked at their phone. We did all this and stuff." If you don't have this open line of communication with your children, that no matter what the problem is, when you get into an issue, you come to me. will deal with it. Okay. I mean, if they think that they're going to be scorched earth until they're 18, they'll never get a phone, and they're not going to come tell you that they fell. Okay. So there's a whole aspect of it. There's a part the kids have to play in this, and there's a part that the parents have to play. And we need to be the ones to help facilitate this to happen. As far as I'm concerned, the church should be actively involved in being involved in getting this conversation at a higher level. And then add the spiritual level into it, because if we're not fighting against flesh and blood, who are we fighting against? Principalities, powers, spiritual hosts in high places. Well, who are these? If they're not people, who are they? And we have the tools through the Holy Spirit to bring down fire from God on them and create barriers and blockages in the spirit realm. And that is effective. And it's not just an air game. It's not a land game. It's a combination. And that's one of the things I really try to address with the people who believe in that. Not everybody believes in that. That's okay. You know, there's a lot of, I go to human trafficking task force. You know, Busman was asking, well, how do you get involved? Okay. There's probably somebody in your local community that's involved with either taking care of victims of human trafficking or an anti-trafficking agency or something. Get involved with them. They don't have to be Christian. A lot of them are. A lot of people, you know, claim to be, you know, acknowledge Christ. But at the bottom line, I'm not there for their salvation. I'm there to be a part of the solution that God has me in my local community. And what I really want to strive is if you have the opportunity to be involved in this in your local community, please do it. If nothing else, support them. At least go to them, you know, once a year, shake their hand, buy them lunch or something, you know, whatever.
Hang on a sec. There you go. We live in a spiritual world with physical manifestations. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, absolutely. But that we have taken that whole aspect and we have flipped it into everything is just horizontal. Whatever's going on, you know, okay, it's a horizontal thing, you know. Every rain bomb is just a disaster by, climate change, by, spraying the air. Yeah, it is. Okay. I mean, have we not taken out that, God created 13 droughts in the Old Testament? Like God can't come in and spank his community anymore, with blessings and curses, and he can. Okay. And the thing is this is what I try to teach through the spiritual warfare. And it's in an introductory level through Steve Hempfield on our website. Okay. But a lot of people don't even have that fundamental idea that they can fight things in the spirit. I mean, I'm going to pray about it. Okay. Well, let me tell you something. I can shoot my gun or I can aim on my gun. And a lot of people in prayer, they shoot their gun like it's a button and all the stuff just spreads out and it doesn't go very far. Or you can like pinpoint your prayers against certain things and they will take traction in the spirit realm over your particular area. And you're called to do it just like Lot. Lot was vexed. He would go to the gate about what was going in Sodom and Gomorrah. And that's why God attributed him to being righteous. Not that Lot was such a great guy, but he saw what was going on in his community. He spoke against it. He didn't like it. And guess what? You know what? When it was time to get the community smacked down and there was no repentance because there was not 10, Lot was spared. And we need to do that. We need to have that same mentality over our local community. Our biggest imprint, your biggest imprint is right there where you live in Ohio. And you've made a difference because you know what? What did they do? They have a natural family thing. You got helped on the legislation, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, we're talking about it, and there's getting a lot of resistance to it. And yeah, there are prayer warriors out there, and but again, it's going to depend on some workers as well. But yeah, we started the discussion. We've had the discussion. That's important. We're having that discussion.
But if it wasn't you doing it, it wouldn't be there, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So what, this is the same thing about human trafficking. This is the same thing with whatever the problem is. Okay. So you're either a bystander or you're a participator. There's no in between. Okay.
That's a great point.
And then the question is if God has given you the gifts and the talents and the ability to be a participator and you're not participating, you are going to have to stand in front of Jesus Christ and give an answer for that. Okay, yeah. You're going to be. I'm not going to say he's kicking you into the hell and fires, but he's going to say, "I gifted you with this ability to do it, and you didn't do it." I don't want to be on that end of the question.
it takes a lot of energy to be where you are. Okay. It takes a lot of energy for me to be where I am, but you have to take that first step, and it may only be walking 50 yards, but at least you're taking the first step. And then the next time you may go 75. Next thing you know, you're going around the whole track and you're doing miles, and you might be doing marathons, but you have to start. And it is a combination of spiritual and physical, but it is both. It is both. And listen, you don't have to run. You can use the telephone. You can use the internet. There's all different ways that you can get involved. Mr. Anderson, let's take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to bring Norm in. I think Norm might have a comment or two. Craig Michael, I really appreciate what you're doing. We need a little more detail in terms of how we can arm these parents, arm these aunts, uncles, family members, arm the community in terms of stopping this insanity. If you would, Mr. Anderson, please.
The community of Streetsboro has been grieving the death of 17-year-old James Woods. On Monday, his parents graciously spoke with our Lindsey Buckingham to honor his life. Today, they're back with a very powerful message and a warning for parents about the dangers of sextortion, something they said led their only child to take his own life. We want to warn you, this story may be very difficult to hear.
This week has been a blur for Tamia and Tim Woods. The words of support, flowers, and being cloaked in love is helping.
To hear everybody, saying all these good things, it feels good.
He was a humble young man.
It's only been a few days since their 17-year-old son, James, tragically committed suicide. But the Woods say they have a message that is crucial to share.
They sent him over 200 messages antagonizing him, tormenting him, telling them that they would ruin his life, sending explicit pictures out to his friends.
It's called sextortion, an online crime when an adult poses as a same-aged peer, sometimes convincing victims to share sexual pictures. They say that's what happened to James when a young lady tricked him into sharing too much,
making him use all of his money that he had in cash. They played on his embarrassment and his shame and really made him feel like he had no other choice.
The whole ordeal happened in a matter of 20 hours. Now, the Woods say their mission is to prevent this from happening to anyone else. This week, Tamia and Tim spoke to James' track team, urging them to talk to their parents.
Don't be too ashamed. They're the right people to be vulnerable to.
Streetsboro police and city schools stepping up to help too, in a press release offering resources and a safe place for victims. There's also an ongoing investigation. Homeland Security and FBI leading the way, since some of the suspects are believed to be overseas. Tamia, in honoring James' memory, delivering one final plea.
So I just want the kids, please kids, I'm begging you, tell your parents if they ask, please tell your parents.
The Woods family says they've planned a private funeral for James. They're also considering a foundation in his name one day. For more information on sextortion and how to notice the signs, head to WKYC.com. And as always, if you're having thoughts of suicide, please call or text 988. Someone is always available to help you.
This is such a heartbreaking story. My heart breaks for this family. I'm sure everyone else. But how thankful can we possibly be that they would share this story so other parents don't have to go through this nightmare?
I don't even have the words, but I just spoke with Tamia, and I said that they're saving lives today by sharing this story. And we are
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
And we're back. Craig Mickel. Mickel, Craig, I'm a concerned parent, a concerned grandparent. I've just seen this. And I come to you and go, Craig, what can I do?
Well, if you go to obviously the website, I have online predator demographics. I have the information, but also under Parents Toolbox, under resources, I have 3 modules that were put up by an organization on sextortion. And what they did is they took these 3 5-minute clips, and you can watch it with your children. You can watch it with your teenagers and say, hey, I want to sit here and I want you to watch this with me. And then I want to have a discussion with you. So go through the first one and talk to them, right? Go to the second one and talk to them. Okay. Because, and I'm actually going to post this lady on here, because the testimony of the victims is a lot more powerful than this bald, fat fireman dude talking to you. You feel that woman and that family's pain. And I'm looking at that kid, and I'm like, and looking at Coach Norm Davis. I said, he probably remembers teaching a kid like that, right? This wasn't the guy that's the weirdo in the side of the class that has all these emotional problems. He's an average kid. He has friends in there. He's doing well in his community, and all of a sudden, this whole thing, his whole world falls apart, and he ends up taking his life, instead of being able to feel like, wow, even if this gets exposed, there's a tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
I mean, that's when I was driving down today. I was like, I'm trying to put myself back in James's point when I was a kid, and I could see myself doing something like that. Like, there's not going to be a tomorrow for me. There's not going to be a life for me. And it's like, and so what we got to do is we got to be empathetic to these children and understand where they're at. But I'm going to tell you what, the love of Christ and your genuine concern for them will overwhelm the spirit of death and the spirit of shame and fear and stuff like that, So, okay, right there. So those are the 3 modules. You can just sit there and you can click them, and they're a little video. You just watch them with them and have a discussion. Talk with your family. Talk with the people that might be younger that you can influence. If you're a coach, talk to them about this. If you're a youth leader in your church, talk to them. Whatever it is, talk to them about this, and talk to the parents about it, and just lead them to the resources, and the resources will be their best force to move forward.
SavingGodsChildren.com, folks. And there's resources. There's a lot of great things on this site, resources, but don't stop there. But if you don't know how to talk to your child about it, maybe take a look at the videos, and then talk to your soulmate, if you will, and say, okay, let's do this, and let's plan on what we're going to ask in terms of questions, or what kind of response we can get from this. Listen, this is equipping. We're equipping you. You are not out there alone. There are, and Saving God's Children is just one. It's just one. But there are other places you can go to. But you've got to know, like Craig said, 50% of the children are being attacked. Somebody's tapping on their shoulder, and this is a very vulnerable time for children. They've got all kinds of chemicals running through their body, and they're new to the world, and they want to be accepted, and they want to feel like they're worthwhile. And if that gets questioned, go ahead.
And you can pull it up, Mr. Anderson, if you want, but under Parents Toolbox, but also under Church Toolbox, I have online predator demographics. So I went out, it's 4 pages long, but I want to just read you these 4 demographics. 7, excuse me. 69% of tweens 8 and 12 and 90% of teens encounter sexual content online. So 90% of your teens are watching sexual content online. That's right there. Only 7% of their parents know kids receive inappropriate content from adults. 7%. 93% don't know that their kids are receiving things inappropriately from adults. 31% of the children 12 to 18 lie about their age. I can imagine that. I would have lied about my age too.
Yep.
Let's look at this one here. Only 15% of parents know their children's online habits. 60% of online predators hide explicit images of children. The most common goals of offenders is to acquire explicit images of children. Other purpose can be categorized as this. So the first thing is they want that image just like they got from James. 32% of those want physical meetings and sexual content. 8% enjoyed online sexual conversations and role play. 2% are financial motivation, which is what sextortion is about. 40% of the children from grades 4 to 8 experienced online chatting with strangers. 40%. Okay. All right. And 1 in 5 reported online predators contacted them. The predator contacted them. 90% are watching pornography. 40% are having contact with adults. What I'm trying to tell you, and these statistics are old. So what I'm trying to point out is the problem is way beyond worse than what you think. And it doesn't matter how good you think your children are. It doesn't matter how good you've raised them. When they get online, you might as well take them into the worst area of the city that you live in at like 1 o'clock and drop them off, because that's what they're doing online.
Amen. Norm, go ahead, please. Appreciate your patience.
Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 comments. First off, Craig, God bless you for what you're doing, and thank you for coming in and educating us. You know, it's obvious, as big as this is, we all know several kids that's being affected by this. You know, and so we need to stop and think about that. You know, like I said, we know kids, and you know, good kids, I'm sure. You know, we had an incident here a few months ago, and I'm in rural Western Kentucky. You know, we think, well, this is happening in New York or somewhere, but we had I'm only about 20 miles from an interstate, and there was a local family that went to a restaurant, and the young daughter, a beautiful blonde young girl, she goes to the bathroom. There were 2 women in there that immediately drugged her, cut her hair, put a cap on her, changed her shirt, and was getting ready to usher her out. I guess they drugged her to where she, you know, could walk, but you know, but the mom just kind of got worried about her and go in the bathroom and find this. And again, this is happening. That's a little different than what you're talking about, but this is happening everywhere. And I do have a question. Tom Holman said this last week that they had found about 67,000 of these kids that had been lost. Now, do you know if there's any program set up? Are they capable of dealing with these and finding some help for these young people?
Well, that's, I think, pretty much specifically when Biden had to open borders. It was the high-speed rail for human trafficking to come into the United States. Children were taken from other countries and were sent through this system. I mean, you're not 8 years old and walk 1,000 miles and come through Texas. Okay, you don't have the resources to do that. So this was going to feed an existing problem. This is what people don't realize. We as Americans are buying and supporting this. There is enough demand in the United States of sick, perverted people to have sex with these children. That's another component. There's so many different layers to this, okay? And we have the disposable income to do it. That's why they send them to the United States. You know, they don't necessarily send a bunch of these to Ecuador or whatever, because they can have their own sex over at Ecuador. They don't have any money. But they send them up here to what? To America, because we have the money to do this. So, and to what your point is of what happened to you locally, and I'm not trying to diminish that doesn't happen. You have to be as hyper vigilant about your 15-year-old going to the bathroom, okay, as you do about online. So, but what I'm just trying to say is the chance of that happening to quote unquote the average, you know, American in rural America it's lower. But the risk of that happening and the outcome is worse. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Because your child's taken, you know, if they're on an online predator and they take a picture of them, at least you still have your child. You can deal with the problem. That situation, that child might have been gone forever.
Right.
So
God bless you. God bless you for what you do.
Yeah, but they're trying to, Tom Holman, they're trying to connect and repatriate these 60,000 children to their families that were stolen in other countries. Okay. The parents just didn't send them there. They were stolen by the cartels, the human trafficking cartels. Human trafficking is estimated in the United States to be between 25 billion and 50 billion. So let me give you an industry to compare that with. The NFL makes 30 billion a year. So think about that $500 seat and that $10 hot dog and $15 beer. Think about all those people in the stadium, all the money, all the player salaries, all the big stadiums, all the merchandising, all that is 30 billion. And human trafficking is 25 billion to 50 billion in the United States. That's the demand. So what I'm trying to say is the demand, our people are paying for this. There are sick enough people in our country that are paying this stuff. That's wrong.
This is real. And there's real power behind that called money. There's a demand for this in America. It's embarrassing. But what's really embarrassing is you're without excuse. Okay. You are without excuse. This is going on. Are you going to wait till it taps you on the back and your child is missing or your child is a victim? Is that what you're going to do? That's what you are doing. And that's why we're bringing Craig on and other folks like Craig. There are issues out here. Here's the issue. We've drawn out very plain for you. This is what's happening. And we've given you at least a start in terms of finding a resolution before the problem ever happens. That's the key. We're a society that's addicted to drugs. And that means we're trying to cure symptoms. When you have before you an opportunity to stop what's going to happen to your child. Absolutely amazing. Amazing. Mr. Anderson, we go into break, and so we'll bring Craig back on afterwards and kind of finish up. Folks, this is real. This is real, and you cannot ignore it.
I used to believe everything I'd see on the news, but that's before I discovered a brain.
A brain is meant for everyday use. Those living with moderate to severe stupidity have seen immediate improvement in common sense with a brain.
I thought the government had my best interests at heart, and then a friend told me about a brain.
Talk to your doctor about what news sources you obey. A brain may also lower your desire to take life-altering advice from celebrities.
Getting lectured about my carbon footprint from people with 3 private jets used to make sense. But thanks to a brain, now I can think for myself every day. When my disregard for 3rd grade biology began to flare up, I knew it was time for a brain.
Do not try a brain if you're allergic to a brain. Common side effects may include accountability, discernment, homeschooling your kids, a better understanding of economics, awareness of the stupidity of socialism, and diarrhea.
For tethering yourself to reality, the only no-brainer is choosing a brain. Ask your doctor if a brain is right for you.
For more information, visit tryabrain.com.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
We're back. I think Bushman wanted to make some comments, so I'll bring him on stage. You have solutions, do you, Mr. Bushman?
I believe I do, BJ, and I love what Craig's doing. And something that needs to be addressed, ladies and gentlemen, watching this program, is this: if you're attracted to a child, you need to contact somebody. You need to talk about it. Number one.
Wow.
Because the Bible says this, ladies and gentlemen: there is sin that is not uncommon to men. That's in the book of James, if you'd like to read it for yourself, straight from God's mouth to our ears. So I believe that this needs to be talked about. This is the first level of solution, BJ. We talk about this. We talk about it among our communities, our youth groups, our baseball leagues, our soccer teams. We talk about this. It needs to be talked about. That's the first thing that we can do. Second thing we can do is we can start looking for people like Craig Mickel and his website. So I'm very grateful that you're having him on today, BJ. This is very, very awesome, very hands-on information. I'm going to do a report on this. I've been compiling some research, and look for it on the Busman Report. You can find me on Rumble. It will be posted. I'm going to put it together. It's going to be biblically based. We talked about earlier about not getting involved. Christian, Ecclesiastes 12, I want you to read that whole chapter. You will be judged for not helping. A lot of Christians don't think about their, what I call the third level of existence. That's our eternity. When we are judged by Almighty God for everything that we did and what we did not do. I need to be very sober on this. I want to talk to the church leaders right now, because I am involved in a horrible story that's happening right here in my church, okay? It's already made it on the news, where the pastor had sexual relations with a young teenage girl in the congregation. Okay, I know what I'm talking about, okay? This is happening way too often. So what we want to try to do is we want to try to minimize the attacks on the children. So the first thing is to recognize in yourself, am I attracted to a kid? Okay, and if you are, reach out to someone, okay, and say, hey, I'm having some strange deviant stuff, I need to talk, okay? Be it a trusted friend, a trusted family member first, but then move on, okay? Secondly, I want to talk to the church people. Church people, there are things that the body does that God has designed our body to do, to let others know, if you will, starting with ourselves, if we have done something deviant, if we're lying, if we're cheating, if we're stealing. And what happens to our physiological bellies? It happens in our gut. We develop a halitosis because we're concerned that somebody is going to find out what we just did wrong. Whether we lied, whether we've stolen something, and we're looking around. Okay. It causes halitosis. Okay. And you will breathe a smell out of your breath. This is scientific fact. Okay. So I want to say this to the folks in churches. Get rid of the mints that you use to pray with. Okay. Because if you see a man, woman, or a teenager leaving your student ministry or your little kids ministry and they're nervous, walk up to that man, woman, or teen and say this, how are you doing? And then take a look at their demeanor and smell their breath. Now, does that mean that everybody is guilty of sex crimes with kids if they've got bad breath? No, but it's an indicator. It's something that you can use to realize something's just not right here. That man, woman, or teen seems a little off. They're not their normal, jovial, Christian church self. Okay? So these are things that we can practically do. When we're talking about kids, we got to remember this. Adults, teenagers, both men and women, it's not gender, are attracted to them. And now in today's society, thanks to the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, being taught to them in these, like BJ calls them, these indoctrination centers, the kids are now being lowered their inhibitions, that inappropriate behavior is inappropriate. They're being taught that it's okay.
Among other things.
So
Thanks, Mark. We're going to get back to our
I need you to talk about it. Sure. I'm just offering solutions. Thanks, BJ.
Yeah, good solutions. Good solutions. Got about 5 minutes. You want to close it out for us, Craig?
Yeah, absolutely. One is, I mean, in a way, we've kind of had a show that's realistic, but it's bleak. But I want to give you encouragement, okay? Because things are starting to in a trajectory to turn in the right direction, and that's a good thing. Okay, doesn't mean we don't have a long road to go. All right. So that one lady, she was just down, the mom of the Streetsboro young teen that killed himself with due to sextortion. She was in front of Capitol Hill, right, talking to lawmakers. What we need like if you're messing with a kid, basically, you're one and done. I mean, you have to make it so hard, the penalty, that's going to be that do it. Okay. And then we're going to have to have a system that's willing to stand by this. Okay. So we need a judicial system to do their part. Okay. Then what we do is, like, if you go under Church Toolbox, I have a Pure Desire Ministries helps people from pornography. And I put in their Barna research. 60% of the people are watching pornography in church, and they think it's okay. Half the pastors are watching pornography. Okay. No. All right. So Pure Desire Ministries is a resource to get people out of pornography. That's step number one, right? If you look at Son of Sam and Jeffrey Dahmer, one of their first entrances was pornography, killing animals, all kinds of things, right? So we know that this is a stepping stone. So we need to address the pornography issue that's going on in our nation and our country, okay? Melania Trump, right? She got him to have this thing called Take It Down legislation, which has not yet it's been passed, but not implemented. In other words, if there's an inappropriate, just say your granddaughter sends an inappropriate picture, right? You'll be able to take that picture down in 48 hours. And so the social media companies, what's happening now is a lot of these moms are suing all these social media companies. And guess what? That's going to bring change over. There are so many different lawsuits, okay? One from AI, Chat GPT. That's a whole nother issue, man. We haven't even gotten into that one, okay? So they're starting to sue them. So that's going to create change. So change is coming up. It's getting more airtime on podcasts and news coverage. These are all positive steps, is what I'm just trying to say. Although we have a long way to go. And then the next question is, like anything else, is it going to just flame up for a year or two and die down? Or are we going to be able to really follow through until we get a good resolve out of it?
It ain't going to end as long as I'm on the air. So that's the reason we're bringing you in, Craig. Very, 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 very informative. And I hope that you will pass this information on to your friends. Share this with them. Craig has a site. We've been running that through the whole program, savinggodschildren.com.
And BJ, I have a contact thing. You contact me. I'll help you get whatever you want to get started locally. You can use Saving God's Children as a block. You can use our rescue. You can use Vets for Child. It doesn't matter. You send me an email. You give me a phone number. I'll call you. I'll help you in any way to help take what you feel is a calling and be able to put boots on the ground to it. And we might be able to even do some financial support to get you started.
I can't tell you how important what we're talking about is today. We're talking about children. It's bad enough that we send them to indoctrination centers and confuse them. This is just part of, again, like I said, America seems to major in child abuse. And we're paying for it. Millions of dollars. Paying for all this. This is just absolutely insane. Craig, thank you very much for what you do, brother. We'll have you back on. Keep us advised what's happening. SavingGod'sChildren.com. You have links to other sites. You have links to all kinds of information. Use it. Use it. You need to. Let's get us out of here, Mr. Anderson. BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. This has been your last call.
Join us next week for Last Call with BJ Edwards.